One little guideline that I always try to emphasize with my students is to keep the top. And by that I mean that whatever part you stick in the sewing machine that's in front of your sewing machine, and I'm saying this is the front, then that needs to stay there. And when you're free motion quilting, you can do that because you can stitch in every direction and still have this be the front of your machine. So this will make it easier for when you're transitioning to a larger quilt and that maybe it's harder to, there's a lot more to stick into this side of the machine, then it's going to be much harder to turn. And if you have trained yourself to always turn the quilt to get the best view of your stitch, then you're going to have a lot of frustration built right in. So if you start from the beginning and train yourself to just keep the quilt in one direction and quilt, make sure your quilting can always go in several directions, but this part stays in front of the machine. Then you will be a long ways towards getting to those larger quilts with much less frustration. Now we're going to actually do some machine quilting, and what I like to start with is doodling. I like to only call it doodling because there are no rules to doodling, and we don't want to put any stipulations on what you're going to do here. The first thing I start with, of course, is to pull up the bobbin thread. So I want to do that, and I get a hold of that and lower my presser foot and hang on to that starting thread. And then I want you to just do things that you're used to doing, not something new or just a design that's in your head. And a lot of times something as simple as cursive L's is a good way to start. It's something we learned in grade school and we know how to do it, and it's a really good way to see if you are doing a consistent job of moving your hands the same speed all the time. A human nature thing is to kind of speed up when you go over the top of the L. Make sure you remove these pins as you come to them. You don't want to sew on top of them, that's for sure. So as you're stitching, it's really easy to go faster over the top. And when you do that, you get a longer stitch length the faster you go. So you need to be aware of how consistent your movements are. And so you can make them big and small and just kind of play with how it feels to push your foot down on the foot pedal and how fast you need to move your hands. Of course, when you're pushing on the foot pedal harder, the machine's going to speed up and you're going to have to move your hands faster. And vice versa, if you slow down the machine, you have to move your hands much slower. So you need to find kind of your consistent, comfortable point of what it is that works for you to get that stitch length to just be consistent. Now, there is no rules about stitch length. It's whatever preference you have. If you like a longer stitch length than somebody else, that's perfectly fine. If you like something that's much shorter, do that. Consistency is the only thing that is just more pleasing to the eye. So I just want you to just kind of doodle and play and do some things to get yourself used to having complete control of your fabric and where your stitching is going. Your machine is not helping you at this point. You're in total control. Then another thing that's nice to practice on is cursive C's. And what this does is it helps you get ready to do feathers. To do feathers, you have to back up on the same line of stitching. And that is just not that difficult to do, and as long as some people don't realize that it's okay to back up on the same line of stitching. It's not a problem at all. It's okay, and sometimes it's very much necessary. So I just want you to play and get used. Look, I can make backwards C's too. And notice that I'm keeping this part in front of the machine at all times. This is the top of my sandwich. I'm keeping it there. I can stitch in any direction I want. So always just keep, just always in your mind, I want to go this direction, I want to play, I want to do something that just I don't really have to think about. And then another thing you can do is ribbon candy. How simple is that? And it also helps you make sure that you're consistent in going around those curves, and you're just playing and doodling and just have a good time. Being conscious all the time of how fast you're moving your hands and how hard you're pushing on the foot pedal. That's the key right here.